How's it going, guys? So in today's tutorial I'm gonna show you how to create this really cool procedural energy ball in Blender that works in both Cycles and Eevee. It's really cool and totally customizable, so you can easily create your own unique version just by adjusting some settings. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I have a surprise for you. So let's get started. First, make sure you have the Node Wrangler add-on enabled, because it adds useful shortcuts for dealing with nodes. To be honest, I don't know why it's still not enabled by default in Blender, but that's alright. So the first thing I'm gonna do is add a sphere. So I'm gonna press Shift and A, go to Mesh, and select Icosphere. And now I'm gonna open the Add Icosphere settings, and I'm gonna turn the subdivisions up to 6, and right click on the sphere and choose Shade Smooth. So now we have this nice and smooth sphere. Now I'm gonna click here to switch the view over to the Shading tab. Alright, let me just adjust the view real quick. And I'm gonna select the rendered view. And I'm gonna turn off the gizmos and overlays so we can focus only on our material. And also I'm gonna enable the screencast keys. So here you'll be able to see the keys that I'm pressing. Okay, so now on the shader editor, I'm gonna click here to add a new material. And we won't need the principled BSDF, so I'm gonna delete it. In the first node I'm gonna add is a layer weight node. So I'm gonna press Shift and A, click here and search for layer weight. It's already here, so I'm gonna select it. And I'm also going to bring in an emission shader and a transparent BSDF. So I'm going to use one of the Node Wrangler add-on shortcuts to mix these two nodes together. So I'm going to hold Ctrl and Shift, and I'm going to use the right mouse button to connect the two nodes. And the Node Wrangler add-on automatically adds the mix shader mixing these two nodes. And now I'm going to connect the facing of the layer weight into the factor of the mix shader. And I'm gonna hold Ctrl and Shift and left click on the mix shader to preview the material. So now we have this gradient effect coming from the center of the sphere, and we can use the blend value to control the effect. I'm gonna hold Shift to have a better control. I'm gonna increase the strength of the emission shader. And now to get a really nice bloom effect, I'm gonna go to the Compositing tab. I'm gonna enable Use Nodes. Press Shift A and I'm gonna add in a glare node. I'm gonna drop it right here in the middle. And I'm gonna switch the glare type over to Fog Glow. Back to the Shading tab. I'm gonna go over here and expand this drop down. And I'm gonna set Compositor to Always. When you set this option, Blender shows the compositor effects in the viewport, and it's really useful to see the final result without having to render the scene. Let me increase the emission strength just a bit. Yeah, there we go. Now I'm gonna add a color ramp right after the layer weight node. Now I can use the sliders of the color ramp to have more control of the gradient effect. And we can also change the interpolation to get a better effect. So I'm gonna change it to B-spline. Yeah, I think it looks good. Now we have a more gradual transition, so I think it looks better. So I'm gonna drag the black slider closer to the white one. Yeah, I think it looks good. Okay, so now I'm gonna go to the emission shader and I'm gonna pick a color for this layer. I'm gonna choose this blue. I'm gonna make it darker. Alright, I think it looks nice. And I'm also gonna go to the World Properties tab and I'm gonna set the strength all the way down to 0 because I think it looks much better to see the effect we are getting. So I'm going to increase the strength of the emission shader once more, because when you pick darker colors for the emission shader, we lose a bit of the bloom effect. That's why you need to increase the emission strength. Let me just organize these nodes real quick. Okay, so now I'm going to add a math node before the color ramp. And I'm going to set it to power. And now, with this exponent value, it's going to be easier to control the thickness of the effect. Okay, so now I'm going to add a noise texture to the layer weight. The noise texture is basically to create and animate this effect. So I'm going to press Shift and A, and I'm going to search for the noise texture. And I'm going to also bring in a math node. And I'm going to drop it here, right after the layer weight node. I'm going to keep the math node set to add. and I'm going to connect the color of the noise texture into the second value of the math node. I'm gonna make some room here because I'm gonna add a map range node right here in the middle. And with the map range node, we'll be able to control the effect of the noise texture. So I'm gonna set from minimum to 0.45, and you can already start to see how the noise texture is affecting the result. I'm gonna increase the from max value just a bit. There we go. I'm gonna also set the scale of the noise texture to 2. And I'm gonna select the noise texture, and I'm gonna press Ctrl and T to add in a mapping in a texture coordinate node to the noise texture. And I'm gonna connect the object of the texture coordinate node into the vector of the mapping node. Now to kind of stretch the noise, I'm gonna increase the scale on the z-axis. So I'm gonna set it to 2.7. Alright. Now to animate the energy, I'm gonna add a driver to the rotation on the z-axis. And to do that, I'm gonna type in hashtag frame divided by 50. I am dividing the value by 50 just to reduce the rotation speed. So this is one of the ways that you can use to control the animation speed. So now I'm gonna hit spacebar to play the animation, and let's see what we got so far. This is looking really nice, but we can also create a noise variation, and this is gonna make the animation look even better. So I'm going to go to the noise texture node, and I'm going to switch the dimensions over to 4D. And this gives us this W value that is a seed for the noise pattern. So we can also add a driver to this value to animate the noise pattern, and this is going to give us a nicer animation. So I'm going to take the opportunity to show you how to copy and paste a driver. So I'm going to right click on this driver, and I'm going to copy the driver. Now I'm going to go to the W value of the noise texture node, right click, and choose paste driver. Now I'm going to play the animation again to see the result. This is a bit laggy now because I'm using cycles and I'm also running the software to record my screen. So let me change it to Eevee. I'm going to go to the Render Properties tab, and I'm going to change the render engine over to Eevee. And since I'm using Blender 4.2, I have the new version of Eevee, that's why we're getting this effect, but it's very simple to fix. I'm just going to go to the Material Properties tab, and I'm going to go to Settings, and under Surface, I'm going to switch the render method over to Blended. There we go, it looks pretty nice. Now the animation is much more responsive, and we can see that the energy not only rotates, but it also changes its forms, creating this really cool animation. Now I'm going to adjust the color because I think the emission is a bit strong. So let me move this slider just a bit. Let me also make the color a bit darker. Yeah, it's still a bit strong. Let me adjust this slider once more. Yeah, now you're getting this really nice energy animation. Let me just darken this color just a bit more. There we go, I think it looks better. Let's take a closer look to really see what's going on here. Huh? How cool is that? And now let's move on to the next layer. Now we're gonna work on the core energy. I'm just gonna select the transparent BSDF, the emission, and mix shader nodes. Press Shift and D to duplicate them, and I'm gonna place them here on the top. Hold Ctrl and Shift and left click on the mix shader to preview the result. Okay, now I'm gonna duplicate the layer weight node. And again, I'm going to connect the facing value of the layer weight into the factor of the mix shader. Then I'm going to add a map range node right after the layer weight node. Now I'll invert the from min and from max values. And I'm going to set the to min value to -2.5. And the to max value I'm going to set to 0.01. Alright, now we need to increase the emission strength quite a bit. I think 20,000 will do. Alright, now I'm gonna make the color a bit brighter as well. And there we go. Now we have this really nice emission coming from the core energy. Now I'm gonna use that lazy mix shortcut to mix these two shaders. Let me just adjust their positions first. Now just hold Ctrl and Shift, then use the right mouse button to join them together. And it looks awesome. Look how cool this is. But we are not done yet, so let's move on to the next layer. I call this layer circle energy because it doesn't matter the angle you look at the energy ball, this layer will always look like a circle. So to create it, we basically need to duplicate the core layer. So I'm going to select the nodes that correspond to the core layer and press Shift and D to duplicate them. I'm going to place them here on the top, hold Ctrl and Shift and left click on the mix shader to preview the result. I'm going to add a math node after the layer weight node. And I'm going to set it to power. And we're going to use this value to control the thickness of the layer. But first we need to adjust the values of the map range node. So from min will be 0.1, from max 9, to min 0, and to max 1. I'm going to also reduce the emission strength. I think 1000 will work. Yeah, there we go. Let me also increase the from max just a tiny bit. And now we can see how this value controls the thickness of this layer. Now I'm going to mix these two nodes together using the lazy mix shortcut again. Now I'm going to darken this color because I think the emission is a bit strong. And I'm going to adjust the thickness. This is looking really good. If you want, you can change the color of this layer to create a different effect. It creates an interesting contrast between the layers. But I'm gonna keep it blue. This way it looks like the walls of the energy bar are thicker, but feel free to use it the way you want. So this is what we got so far. Now let's create the final layer, which is this pulsing energy. To create it, I'm gonna duplicate the nodes that correspond to the circle energy. Again, hold Ctrl and Shift and left click on the mix shader to preview the result. And now I'm going to adjust the map range node values. So I'm going to set from min to 0.5, from max to 0, to min to -6, and to max to 0.24. So now we need to make this value oscillate between a range of values to create the pulsing animation. And to do that, I'm going to add in a math node. And I'm going to set it to ping pong. Let me show you real quick how this ping pong option works. It basically bounces the results back and forth between 0 and the scale as the input value increases. So when I increase the value, we can see how it works. And this behavior is perfect for creating the pulsing animation. We just need to connect the value output into the exponent of this math node and create a driver for this value. So I'm going to type in hashtag frame divided by 20. Now to make the value get between the range that we want, I'm going to add a math node after the ping pong node. I'm going to keep it as add. This way we're adding the second value of this node to the result of the ping pong node. This way we can get the value to the range that we want. So I'm going to set the value to 1, and if I play the animation, we can see that we are getting the pulsing effect. But of course we need to reduce the emission strength, so let's do it. And let me adjust this value to make the ball a bit bigger. There we go. So now it's time to merge this part to the rest of the material. Alright, it's looking really cool and we're almost done. You can use the scale of the ping pong node to control the speed of the pulsing energy. And of course you can use the driver expression to do the same thing. So now that we've finished all the layers, it's time for the final touch by adjusting the emission strength, the colors, or anything we want. So I'm going to increase the emission strength of the core energy. Let me also make the color a bit brighter. Alright. Yeah, that's looking really cool. I'm gonna make the noisy energy color a bit brighter as well. A bit more. And let me check the circle energy too. Alright, this is the final result. Look how cool this is. A totally customizable and animated energy ball. Now I'm gonna show you how to organize the nodes, create a node group to make it easier to customize the material, and lastly I'll show you how you can download this project for free. So now I'm going to create a frame for each of the 4 layers. I'm going to start with the pulsing energy, so I'm going to select the nodes of this layer. Then I'll press Ctrl and J to create the frame. Then I'll press F2 to add a label to it. The next one is the circle energy. Now the core energy layer. And lastly, the noisy energy. Now, to create a node group, I'm going to select all the nodes except the material output. And I'm going to press Ctrl and G. And there we go. Now we just need to choose the inputs of the material that we want to add to the group input, and we'll be able to use these inputs to customize our material. For example, I'm going to add the input value of this math node, which is the one that we use to create the pulsing animation. I'm going to also add the scale. And I'm going to add the input of this math node, which we use to get the value of the ping pong node to the range that we wanted. So we can use this value to regulate the range of the pulsing animation. When I play the animation, we can see that the pulsing energy is not working anymore. This is happening because when I connected the input of the driver that we used to create the pulsing animation, the driver wasn't added to the input value, so we need to recreate it. So bear in mind that this might happen to you, and you'll need to recreate the driver as well. Now, as you can see, it's working perfectly again. And if you don't want the connection line passing behind a node, you can create a reroute by holding Shift and using your right mouse button to drag and create a reroute. Now you can press G to grab, then you can position it wherever you want. This is just to make the nodes a bit more organized. You can also rename the label of the inputs. Just hit N to open this menu. And in the Group tab, we have the Group Sockets. Now just double click on the label and you'll be able to rename it. So this one is the pulsing animation. I think you got the idea, so I believe I don't need to show you this process for all the inputs. I'm just going to show you the final material. And here you can see all the inputs that I added to the node group and what each one of them does. Of course, I know you can't actually see them, but I'm going to show you in a minute how you can download this project. Let me just show you some of the customization options. So you can change the color of each layer. You can also adjust the emission strength of each layer. You can control some aspects of the noisy energy. For example, you can adjust the detail amount to get a different effect. You can get the value of these noisy energy contrast fields closer to each other to get a really different kind of energy, and much more. And the surprise that I mentioned at the beginning of the video is that you can download this project for free on my website artisticasset.com. Any asset on this website is free, you don't even need to give credit. The only thing that I ask is that you leave a comment in this video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This is the best way to support it because YouTube will show this video to more people and we'll be able to create more content and grow this community. That's it for this video, thanks for watching and see you in the next one.